Hounds Ahoy, episode 2, where we begin in Titusville, where we left off on the last episode, and then we contacted Jeff at Boater's Edge because we developed a leak on the way in. We had all sorts of buzzers and alarms going on the way in, didn't we?
Yes, it was pretty scary, but we limped in and managed to get moored up. I think we were there for about a week, 10 days altogether.
And Jeff and Alex got down in the engine room, and they, not my Alex, his Alex, and they sorted out the problem, which turned out to be an oil cooler gasket, which he had to order. They got down and dirty, but left the place absolutely spotless after all the oil came out in the bilge, which they pumped out nice and safely, and did an absolutely brilliant job, and a decent price as well. So thanks to Jeff and Alex.
Being in Florida, we also had the luxury of buying oranges every day and making our own orange juice.
Fresh orange juice, love it. You did a good job on that.
Thanks.
So another trip on the ICW, this time down from Titusville to Dockside Marina in Fort Pierce. Dockside Marina is right by the inlet to Fort Pierce, and because of the nature of the geography locally, when the tide's going out, it really goes out, and you get a good 10 to 12 knot flood with the water rushing out, and of course with the wind going in the same direction. We were trying to get onto an inside slip and really struggled.
Fort Pierce was also Joe's and Max's first official trip to the beach in Florida, which they absolutely loved, as you can see here. Max thinking he's discovered something new. Yep.
They were so excited. Almost as good as, probably even better than the dog parks, would you say?
Well, certainly on a par with it, definitely.
Yeah, it was only them on the beach, but they certainly had an awful lot of fun. They found the occasional stick. Max enjoyed playing in the waves.
We then decided that Joe, who likes to fetch things, we bought a variety of toys which lasted all of 10 minutes. Then we decided to opt for a floaty toy. And Joe fell in love with fish. Fish who he can't be without now, so...
We did quite a few other walks because we were in Fort Pierce for just under a month, I think.
It was a month, yeah.
So we did lots of out walks along pavements and roads, but certainly their trip to the beach every morning was the highlight of their day, wasn't it?
Definitely. Oh, and there's fish. We couldn't go on a walk without fish, could we?
No. Max in a very playful mood. Joe likes to tease everybody with fish.
Max's other hobby was he liked to pounce on things in the water, so the easiest way to throw something was making balls of sand and throwing it into the water. Otherwise, a variety of toys would go missing, floating off to sea all by themselves. So it was easier with Max just to do the sand. A bit mean, but he did enjoy it.
He did.
One of the rare opportunities there where Max actually got hold of fish and made the most of it. Briefly.
Yes. You might remember from the last episode where we mentioned that everything is Joe's. He doesn't mind sharing, but everything belongs to Joe.
Oh, and Max is eating the sand there.
There we go. But let me have fish, I'll eat sand.
Ballast.
Splish splash, I was taking a bath. Long about a Saturday night.
The worst part, which they really didn't enjoy, was being hosed off. Water was cold, and it's not really water on their terms, but we had to do it after a swim, obviously.
Yes.
Sorry, Max, for hosing your head. I do apologise.
By this time they were getting pretty good with the passerelle, weren't they?
Much better, straight on and off. They didn't need to be led across. And there's Joe going up the stairs, going to their sunbathing area.
One of the reasons that we got this boat over others that we were looking at was because of the staircase up to the flybridge. Because if we'd had a ladder, they'd never have managed that, would they?
We love a sunseeker.
We do love a sunseeker. This is the sun pad on the flybridge where the boys love to chill.
And we would very often photograph sunsets. The sunrises were just almost as good, but the sunsets were amazing in Florida.
And as some will know, Fort Pierce is known as the Sunrise City, but I think we have better sunsets than sunrises. Not sure why we put that in, but it just amused me. Childish humour. Just to please Alex, we had to hire a large pickup. We went all the way down to Fort Lauderdale at Seawater Pro, and we'll have a separate video on the water maker for you. Marine Connection Liquidators is an amazing store.
It's like a treasure trove, isn't it?
It really is. Just about everything you could wish to find. And from there we got the table base and a new barbecue. Various shackles, chains, bits of line and rope.
And snorkel gear.
And snorkel gear.
At a very good price.
We had to get a freezer fitted because knowing that we were going to be cruising the Caribbean, the freezer compartment in one of the fridges just wouldn't have been big enough. Unfortunately, we had to take the door and the frame off in order to get it into the VIP suite.
Then it was off to Fort Pierce Market on a Saturday morning. Great variety of products and food available there. Really nice trip. We walked from the marina all the way down
over that huge bridge.
Tired dogs by the end of it, but it was a great morning out for us.
Yeah, they had live music and all the fresh fruit and veg you can see here. We had a couple of smoothies.
And on the way back, of course, we couldn't help but stop at On the Edge Bar and Grill for a cocktail or three. And even a boozy brunch on a Sunday.
Loved Sunday morning brunch. Bottomless cocktails, bottomless mimosa and a bottomless Bloody Mary for me.
Then in January, after Christmas, the rain started to come. And there was the odd storm, wasn't there, with very strong winds.
Yeah, we had some pretty nasty weather in January, didn't we?
Not very nice. We were glad to leave.
Yeah. And 2 days before we left, this was the morning after some very strong winds the night before, where we almost lost the cushion from upstairs, the boys' favourite lying place. And also the bimini decided to rip and flap and tear, and zips broke, poppers got removed. It was in a terrible state, wasn't it? But luckily you did some research on the internet and found these guys.
Who managed to repair it in under 2 hours. They were absolutely brilliant. We can't thank them enough.
Yeah, all we had to do was take it and tumble dry it because they couldn't do it wet. So we tumble dried it and then rushed it down the road.
Then obviously we had to pack all the provisions away before the trip started.
Including our 12 bags of dog food to keep us going for 6 months.
And then the next day we were off.
Unfortunately, although it was due to be 2-foot waves as an absolute maximum and about 6 knots of wind, it turned into something totally different. And from the second we left the Fort Pierce Inlet, it got nasty and rough.
This was an easier bit for filming. It was substantially worse than this before this part of the journey, but at least we were able to stand up. It was horrendous was an understatement.
Yeah.
The boat was absolutely fine, but the people inside kind of struggled, myself especially.
Yeah, we got thrown around all over the place. Most of the light fittings popped out of their sockets.
The fridge door opened by itself and the contents were all over the floor.
Once we got pretty close to Grand Bahama Island, it all sort of calmed down. We were able to open up the speed, and what should have been a 5-hour journey turned into
8.5.
8.5. And you didn't cope very well with that journey at all, did you?
No, I didn't. I can't believe you're actually showing this, but yeah, it was awful. I was very, very ill, at least 5 times, which hasn't happened since, thank goodness, but that day was a struggle, and I was glad it was over.
What do you think of the sunset so far?
Beautiful.
The biggest problem for you was probably because the dogs can't grip on the shiny floors on the main deck. We've only got carpet down below in the bedrooms, so you stayed down there with them for the first part of the journey. So of course no eyesight on the horizon or anything, and you just felt you were sick.
It was awful. Not a journey I plan to relive. We'll take a different route back next time.
And then compounding the problem, of course, we then arrived after dark, which wasn't in the plan, but very close attention was paid to the navigation system. Now this inlet, we were heading actually for Running Mon Resort, which you'll see in the top left-hand corner there. Navionics, which we were looking at, said that we had 7-foot depth minimum at low tide.
And it was low tide when we arrived.
It was low tide, but unfortunately when you then check Aquamaps, which we now use, that says 1.4 meters, which actually translates to 4.5 feet, which means we're going to hit the bottom. And we did, because we draw 5 feet.
I think also since the last hurricane, was it Dorian? Hurricane Dorian? A lot of the rocks and sands had shifted, so there was even less than that really.
Yeah.
And it's just a shame that the apps aren't updated, but we did hit a bit of a problem on the inlet, didn't we?
We did. We'll cover that in the next episode in detail, but we've scratched and damaged the hull. We bent one of the propellers, and yeah, all in all cost us an awful lot. But luckily, right next to Running Mon Resort was Knowles Marine, with a nice guy called Charlton who owns and runs it. He and his son and a couple of helpers came out and rescued us in the middle of the night.
Thank you very much to them. They did a great job on the repairs too, didn't they?
They did.
So here we are actually after the visit from Bahamas Immigration. We're all signed in and approved, and just changing the flags over from the quarantine flag to the Bahamas flag. So we've arrived officially now.
What a relief, although we were still quite stressed because at this point we didn't know what damage was underneath. And as I say, we'll cover that in the next episode because we've got some pictures and videos, so we'll give you all the details on that. We woke up the following morning to quite an amazing sight. Now, I would add that this was not us, this was the guys who work at the marina, and whenever they see a manatee turn up, they feed it fresh water.
As you can see, the quality of the water is a lot different in the Bahamas. It's clearer, and as our journey progresses south, it will improve a whole lot more.
But they're amazing. They just love to drink fresh water.
It's there for, what, 40 minutes?
Oh, at least, yeah.
Max quite liked watching it.
Max was fascinated. He was just sitting there off the front of the boat. Joe was less interested. So there you can see Running Mon Resort, which is where we were heading for.
So that's it for now on episode 2.
Next time on Hounds Ahoy,
The installation of the water maker.
you get around to baking bread at long last.
The repairs that we've had done on the boat in Freeport. And our first glimpse of paradise.
We hit the berries.
Oh, and there's lots more tail wagging.